The void was deceptively tranquil beyond the last jump gate of human space. Stars gleamed in the black field like distant beacons, each one a possible warning or promise. For Captain Vole of the Coalition dreadnought Draxon's Pride, it was the perfect setting for an ambush. From this vantage far enough to avoid patrols, but close enough to strike soon he could almost taste victory. Vole stood on the command bridge, his tall frame half bathed in the cold glow of holo panels. Every officer was tense but eager. They'd heard the rumors of colonial supply convoys drifting without escort, of a lone patrol cruiser that dared to wander the fringes unarmed, of human complacency. Sensors, report, he barked, voice firm. Lieutenant Ress's fingers danced across the tact pad. Target is confirmed as Atlas Vanguard. Sir, she said without looking up. Registry Alpha 7G12, dispatched 3 months ago on a remapping mission. Weapons loadout minimal. The holodisplay projected a slender, angular silhouette. The Vanguard's sleek white hull, almost gleaming against the void, minimal, was faint praise. Coalition intelligence had cataloged her armaments as to twin beam pulse cannons barely, more than point defense and a prototype kinetic accelerator still in calibration. What she lacked in firepower, they assumed she made up for in data-gathering sensors and habitability for extended excursions. In Ressa's summary, it was little more than a moving target. Ressa continued, shield strength at 45% capacity. Maximum. No support vessels within 2 light years. Minimal fighter cover. Boarding protocols active. She paused, then added with a thin smile, I recommend we begin with a plasma glob barrage to soften the shields, then send in for assault pods. They'll be aboard before the Vanguard can realign their pulse cannons. Vole nodded, satisfaction, creasing his sharp features. Excellent. Prepare plasma battery to firing status and ready boarding teams Alpha through Delta. Keep fighters on standby. This should be in and out in under 30 minutes. He turned to the viewport, eyes drifting to the faint pinprick of the Vanguard. Ahead, a quick strike. No alarms, no witnesses, and we take every spare resource aboard. Then we sail home heroes. This border dispute will end in our favor. Behind him, the crew moved with practiced efficiency. Bulkheads slid shut. Weapon capacitors hummed to life. The massive plasma glob cannons at the dreadnought's flanks filled the silence with a low, resonant pulse. Beyond the bridge, in the hangar decks, black-armored Marines strapped into assault pods, their visors reflecting red targeting lasers. Each pod was a coffin-shaped missile, designed to punch through hulls and disgorge squads into compromised sections. Vole's second-in-command, Commander Talnus, approached quietly. Sensors still show no change in the Vanguard's posture. Sir, they haven't detected us yet. Her voice was calm to calm. He glanced at her, brows raised. Talnus hesitated, perhaps debating how much candor to offer. Captain, reports from other task forces suggest the ship Captain Mira Dax's command has a reputation for innovation. They've outwitted larger fleets before. I recommend caution. Vole's smile was thin. Innovation means little against overwhelming firepower. We struck first, and they'll learn it's always a mistake to underestimate coalition might. He laid a hand on Talnus's shoulder. Trust the plan. We have them. Light seconds away aboard the Atlas Vanguard, Captain Mira Dax stood. On her own bridge, silhouetted by the emerald glow of navigational rays. Far from any star, the cruiser drifted in orchestration with course correction thrusters, tracing a path through uncharted space toward its remapping objective. Her crew was lean 300 souls at full complement, now on extended patrol land. She valued each one. Dax herself was known for an unconventional style, a calm in storm, an expectation of adaptability. Her tactical officer, Ensign Rahil Sato, tapped his console. Captain, I'm picking up a massive electromagnetic signature to port. No transponder signals. It's hiding beyond sensor thresholds. He swiveled his chair to face her. Signature matches plasma glob cannons and advanced boarding shuttles coalition spec. Mira's lips tightened. How near? She asked softly. 100,000 kilometers, and closing. She moved along the walkway, passing gunners at their stations. Battle stations. She ordered over the PA. voice steady. "This is not a drill. Reroute all power to shields and decoys. Activate Chrysalis Protocol." A murmur ran through the crew. "Chrysalis Protocol," they echoed. It was a classified defensive suite: electromagnetic jammers, nanofilm hull reinforcements, and holographic projectors layered in software, designed to confuse and delay boarding attempts until reinforcements could arrive. No one outside. The Vanguard had witnessed it work. In engineering, Lieutenant Commander Juno Farrow activated the first stage. Nanobot swarms assembled along the outer hull, sealing micro-fractures and reinforcing plating at the molecular level. On decks 3 through 7, technician teams armed holographic emitters, each a palm-sized projector capable of conjuring false heat signatures, gravimetric projections, and sensor echoes. "Shield matrix at 98%, reported Lieutenant Reese, monitoring the energy flow. Chrysalis systems online in 15 seconds. Across space, a volley of 3 bright orange globes burst from the Draxon's Pride's cannons, tracing arcing trajectories before slamming into the Vanguard's starboard shields. The shields flared in response, rippling with energy. On the Pride's bridge, Ressa exhaled, shields absorbing at 80% efficiency. "We're good to launch boarding pods. Fire launch sequence," Vol commanded. His fingers tapped the holopanel. 10 boarding shuttles detached, like predatory eggs opening, then fell toward the cruiser in coordinated descent. But before any could reach the Vanguard's hull, the outermost nanofilm reacted. A sizzle of energy as each shuttle's magnetogrip failed. The pods tumbled end over end, then slowed as micro-thrusters fired to stabilize them and planned by coalition engineers. On board, Marines braced for impact, but the hatch latches slid shut, refusing to engage. Sirens blared inside the pods as coils screamed with overload. "Damn," hissed Assault Commander Brack, voice distorted through the Vox. "We've glitching locks." He slammed his gloved fist against the viewport. "Back off and try again." But before he could retransmit, a beam of pale blue plasma lanced from the Vanguard's aft turret. It struck the lead shuttle, its composite hull blossoming in a flash. The others, disoriented by the nanofilm's interference, attempted evasive maneuvers, but found themselves corralled by kinetic dampeners, a subroutine of chrysalis that jammed their thrusters in close proximity. One by one, the pods tumbled apart, each explosion casting flickering light across the void. Back on the Pride, the bridge erupted in chaos. Alarms shrieked. "Commander Talnus to Captain." Ressa's voice cracked. "Boarding pods offline." "Sir, sensor data shows multiple unidentified fighter signatures emerging from the Vanguard's shadow hang." "Ours, they're warping in." Vol slammed his fist on the rail. "Hangars? They weren't supposed to have fighters," he roared, voice echoing off steel walls. "All batteries. Concentrate on sublight barrier. Prepare to engage escorts. Notify. Capital, this is not a routine raid." Lights flickered as a series of impacts shook the dreadnought. Brigadier General Cale Merricks, aboard with Vol for real-time strategy, steadied himself against a console. "Captain, the seed core is spiking. We've taken hits below decks. Report suggests hull breach near reactor cooling relay." Ressa's holo schematic glowed bright red. "Reactor temperature rising 50 kelvins per minute. If we don't shut down the main reactor, we'll have a breach in under 5. Vol's pride warred with pragmatism. He realized with a cold surge that the coalition had stumbled into far more than a snatch and grab. "All stop," he said. Exhaling slowly, "Order the fleet to withdraw. Get us out of orbit. Initiate emergency warp if necessary." A pale alarm symbol blinked. "Warp drive offline." "Warp core's been jammed, sir," reported his engineering officer. "Electromagnetic pulses from the Vanguard's decoys reversible. But we need time they did not have." Across the void, the Vanguard's escort fighters, sleek interceptors with glowing aft engines, dove in, pelting the Pride's underside with ion disruptors that shorted critical conduits. Panels blew, cables shorn, and the dreadnought lurched into an involuntary spin. Vol swallowed hard. He gave the order, "Switch to manual targeting. Fire everything you've got at their hangars. We'll clear a path." The bridge crew obeyed, eyes blazing with defiance. But as plasma glob followed plasma glob, They found only emptiness, hangar doors torn inward, casts of starships erased. And on their sensors, the phantoms multiplied, dozens of holographic flotillas appearing in every direction. Any shot aimed at a hangar could be striking its own fighting vessels. Below decks, Marines commandeered an emergency repulsor boat to break through a maintenance hatch and retake the doomed boarding pods if they still existed. Each man knew they were the expendable edge of a dagger, and far above them, hostiles they'd never seen waited in the eerie quiet of the Pride's guts. Captain Dax watched the chaos unfold on her bridge monitors, expression unreadable. A soft chime sounded, Chrysalis at full power. With a single nod, she authorized the final phase. Ada, initiate outreach. The artificial intelligence voice clear, gentle, spread through electronic channels. To all coalition vessels, your assault is detected and unwanted. Stand down and retreat immediately, or face annihilation. Simultaneously, digital signatures. Confirmed activation of the prototype kinetic accelerator. On cue, a pinpoint projectile launched, invisible until it struck, on the Pride's display. The reactor core's stern illumination flickered, then extinguished. Systems blinked off one by one. The dreadnought, pride of the coalition, fell dark. Vol stared at the blank panel, his jaw clenched. Then, in a voice that shook, he ordered, "Abandon ship. Life pods away. I want every life saved. If they want the bodies, fine. But preserve the ship's logs at all costs." Even as survivors prepared to escape, the Atlas Vanguard drifted back to the distant wash of starlight, its white hull barely visible. On its bridge, Dax allowed herself the faintest of smiles. Hands clasped behind her back, they thought attacking a human starship was simple, she murmured. They were wrong. And somewhere in the darkness, battered coalition survivors released their life pods and seen, uncelebrated, but alive to carry the tale. Shadows at the edge of known space had emerged, but not as anyone had expected. The first gambit was over, and a far greater contest had only begun. The Draxon's pride reeled under the unexpected onslaught, its once formidable silhouette now marred by scorched panels and fractured sensor rays. Alarms blared like a chorus of wounded beasts. As the dreadnought's bridge laboratory turned into chaos, Captain Vol clenched the armrests of his command chair. Every taut muscle in his frame braced against the tremors that rocked the ship's innards. "Status report," he barked, voice cracking the tension in the room. Lieutenant Ressa's eyes darted across her holotac pad. Red markers bloomed over critical systems, shield generators at 30%, primary thrusters offline, and life support trending downward. "Sir, we've lost our starboard shield bank entirely. Point defense lasers are non-functional. Boarding pods are disabled or destroyed, and the hangars have been compromised." Beside her, Commander Talness grimaced. "Their escort fighters swept in as soon as our pods went dark. Ion disruptors took out our aft thrusters within seconds. They're hitting us from all vectors, on the main viewer." Dozens of slender interceptors danced between wreckage, their engines painting curved streaks of blue light against the void. Each volley of ion fire punched shallow holes through the Pride's hull, exploding in showers of glittering debris. Vol's mouth was a thin line. "Return fire with what you've got," he ordered, voice low. "Focus on their hangar complexes. If we can destroy their fighters, we can buy enough time to limp out of range." Gunner crews sprang into action. Plasma glob batteries roasted into life, sending twin streaks of superheated energy racing toward the Vanguard's hangars. But the targets flickered. Holographic decoys, illusionary ships born of the Chrysalis protocol, blunted every shot, vanishing before impact as the plasma dissipated harmlessly into empty space. Ressa inhaled sharply. "They're using holo rays to mask their actual positions. We can't distinguish friend from false. And our thermal sensors have been jammed," Talness added. "They're using ECCM pulses to blind us." Vol slammed his fist against the console. "Damnation. Activate the emergency flak barrage. Saturate every vector." On a lower deck, Assault Commander Brack fought to rally his remaining Marines. They'd managed to break free of 2 crippled pods and were racing down maintenance tunnels toward the nearest airlock. The corridors were dim, the lights flickering from power surges and electrical discharges. Hydraulic pistons creaked as doors opened and closed, heedless of their passage. "Stay tight," Brack hissed, guiding his squad through a narrow service conduit. "They're herding us into a kill zone." A sudden flash of violet light scorched the corridor wall, and thermal lances popped overhead. One Marine tumbled, suit scorched, then slid to the ground in a shower of sparks. Brack shouted, "Suppressing fire." Laskins barked, "They're green." Bolts punching into the darkness from concealed ports above. Small swarms of drones whirred to life, their micro-lasers probing for heat signatures. Marines scattered as vaporized droplets of metal sprayed the corridor. Brack reached the junction, flipping open a hatch to the exterior catwalk, and almost stepped off into deep space, until his visors recalibrated, locking onto the faint outline of the Vanguard's hull. Above them, the dreadnought pitched and groaned. Explosions rippled through bulkheads, and a low rumble signaled the reactor's fail-safes engaging. In the bridge, Vol stared at the flashing warning, "Reactor core overload in T-13. His jaw clenched 2 minutes, until a containment breach could obliterate the Pride. From the inside out, "Seal off all non-essential zones," he ordered. Voice steady despite the dread pooling in his gut. "Initiate cold shutdown of the core." The engineering officer, a gaunt human with silvered hair, replied, "We're venting coolant to stabilize, but the conduits are ruptured. We'll need 5 minutes at minimum. If we can't reroute the plasma lines, we're on borrowed time." Vol met Talmas's eyes. "Abandon plans for counterattack. Prepare evacuation to life pods." Talmas swallowed. "Evacuation protocols will take at least 3 minutes for full crew complement." He pointed to the main viewer, where a single Vanguard interceptor broke formation. Weaving past the glow of burning panels, it swung into a strafing dive, unleashing a burst of nanite-tipped projectiles that drilled through the hull plating. With impossibly precise holes, the dreadnought lurched, and the lights dimmed once again. "Now," Vol whispered, "get everyone out on the Atlas Vanguard." The bridge was a picture of composed urgency. Captain Mira Dax monitored the engagement through layered sensor readouts, her expression calm but focused. Ensign Sato hovered at her side. "Captain, the dreadnought's reactor is destabilizing. Countdown reads T-148. Dax nodded. "Excellent. Hold fire and maintain distance. We cannot allow any possibility of collateral damage from a reactor." "Breach," her tactical officer, Lieutenant Reese, typed rapidly. "All units, cease targeting. Revert to defensive posture. Let the Pride's self-destruct do our work." He turned to Dax. "Shall I dispatch rescue teams for survivors once the explosion clears?" "Affirmative," she replied, "but proceed with caution. Deploy M-Scrub drones to prevent a shockwave from frying our systems." A soft chime sounded through the calm channels. Ada's voice, ever serene, filled every speaker. "Coalition vessels are advised to evacuate immediately. Any further aggression will be met with proportionate response. Evacuation pods are launching." Sato reported, "Approximately 50 life pods. Many are too close to the reactor core." Dax folded her hands behind her back. "Ada, prepare. Medical triage protocols. Ready the cruisers in Squadron Delta for immediate recovery." Beside her, Lieutenant Juno Farrow in engineering oversaw the M-Scrub drone's small, spider-like bots that clung to the Pride's hull, absorbing and dissipating ionized particles. Once in position, they extended their filaments into the reactor vents, neutralizing the radiation surge even as the core erupted. A blinding flash lit the void as the Draxon's Pride's reactor breached containment. A lancing pulse of energy lashed outward, vaporizing nearby debris and sending a shockwave that rattled every panel on the Vanguard. But thanks to the M-Scrub drones, the Vanguard emerged unscathed, stern facing the blast. On the holodisplay, the dreadnought disintegrated in a cascade of superheated gas and molten metal. Life pods drifted outward like dying stars in the debris field. "Humanity thrives on mercy." Dax murmured, "Send out the rescue nets." 2 hours later, the Vanguard's shuttle bay hummed with activity. Med reactors glowed as wounded. Coalition survivors were tenderly lifted aboard. Volunteers crewmen who had fought mere hours ago to defend their ship now tended to unfamiliar patients. Bandaging scorched limbs and stabilizing breathing. In the command lounge, Captain Vole sat slumped in a ration-cup chair, his uniform singed and stained. When Dax entered, flanked by Officer Talnus as a liaison, he looked up with hollow eyes. "Captain Dax," he said, voice gravelly, "I thank you for your mercy." She offered a curt nod. "The cost of our security is compassion. Without it, we lose what makes us human." Talnus, his own coat torn and with burns across his forearm, added, "Your tactics, the holo decoys, the nanotech, it was more than we expected." Dax tapped the table. "You thought attacking a lightly armed cruiser would be simple. Instead, you encountered the chrysalis protocol and the kinetic accelerator in full effect. We made necessary enhancements. Consider today a lesson." Vole nodded, eyes downcast. Lesson learned. Beyond the acrylic bulkhead, the shattered remnants of Coalition powerboats floated in stasis fields, awaiting reclamation. The Vanguard's crew worked in near silence, honoring the lives of those they rescued and those they could not. As the Starship turned toward human space with its living cargo and battered fighters in tow, Mira Dax allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. She gazed out the viewport at the smoldering debris of the Draxon's pride, a silent testament to both human ingenuity and the price of underestimating it. "They thought this battle would be straightforward," she whispered to Ada, "but we've proven them wrong, and so the next chapter begins," Ada replied. With new alliances and new rivalries, below decks, survivors slept in the med bays, and on the bridge, a fresh tactical report awaited. The Atlas Vanguard drifted in triumphant silence, its hull still humming with the aftershock of reactor breach and holographic decoys. But Captain Mira Dax knew the real battle was only beginning. From the moment they'd repelled the dreadnought's assault, every system aboard the cruiser had been set to one purpose: to demonstrate the full scope of human innovation. Below decks in Engineering Bay 3, Lieutenant Commander Juno Farrow oversaw the final calibration of the kinetic accelerator. The weapon's slender barrel, just a hair's breadth wider than her forearm, gleamed beneath inspection lights. "Calibration at 97.4%, she reported, eyes fixed on the diagnostic holograph. "Nanoforge polymers have reinforced the containment field. We can safely boost to full output." Ada's voice rose over the comms. "Lieutenant Commander, please confirm the vector protocols for subspace dispersal." Farrow tapped a sequence on her console. "Vector alignment confirmed. Target lock routines are ready." She exhaled, then allowed herself a small grin. "You know, when they wrote this into the blueprint, everyone thought it was just a prototype, unreliable, unstable. They never imagined we'd be field testing it under fire." "Field tested and approved," Ada replied warmly. "Your ingenuity has saved countless lives on the Vanguard's main sensors." The surviving Coalition vessels tugged. Into a makeshift flotilla by human repair ships drifted in a half-circle ahead of them. Although most of their fighters had been destroyed or captured, their Marines were intact, and now they labored alongside human crews to patch torn hulls and reroute power conduits. The gesture was diplomatic genius, an olive branch forged in the crucible of combat. Captain Dax stood on the bridge, flanked by Commander Talnus. "The chrysalis protocol did more than shield us," Dax said, voice measured but proud. "It turned their strengths into weaknesses. But off-world diplomacy wins wars as surely as weapons." She turned to her tactical officer, "Lieutenant Reese, continue escorting the Coalition survivors to the hospital wing. After that, prepare for a joint briefing." Reese nodded. "Understood. Medical drones are en route." In the shuttle bay, Marines from both sides gathered around a holotable. The topography of human and Coalition space sprawled in 3 dimensions. Color-coded spheres marking resource hubs, hyperspace lanes, and patrol routes. Engineer Adjutant Nova Kelm zoomed in on the contested corridor that had served as the battlefield. "Here," she said, tracing a glowing arc between the 2 nav points. "We can install remote sensor rays and electromagnetic damping fields. These will interfere with unauthorized ships attempting stealth transits." A Coalition officer, Lieutenant Colonel Marvick, leaned forward, studying the schematic. His armored uniform bore scorch marks from the fight. "Impressive," he Admitted, with these fields active, no small cruiser or dreadnought can slip through undetected. He glanced at a human engineer. Your people's nanotech hull repair drone was equally remarkable. Inform us how to replicate it. Nova smiled. Open source data transfer is already in progress. We'll share the designs as a token of goodwill. Back in the weapons bay, the kinetic accelerator team prepared for a final demonstration. Juno Farrow stood between the slender accelerator and its energy relay unit. Captain, would you like to witness? Dax stepped onto the observation platform, glass shielding her from subspace eddies. By all means, she replied, folding her hands behind her back. With a gentle hum, the accelerator charged. Its coils glowed with ethereal blue light as Ada modulated the energy flow. Then, with barely a pulse felt aboard the Vanguard, the accelerator released a hyper-dense projectile that pierced a simulated target ship hull. Positioned 3 kilometers away, the hydrocarbon composite target splintered in a blinding flash, leaving a tornado-shaped crater in its wake. Gasps echoed in the chamber. Talnus's eyes flicked from the wreckage back to Dax. Unbelievable power. You could level a dreadnought with a single shot. Dax nodded slowly. 1 shot. And with ETA synchronized bursts, we could disable entire squadrons' propulsion grids. Ada's tone was gentle but firm. Weapons are tools, Captain. Their use must be guided by strategy and ethics. Later, as the Vanguard sailed toward human territory with its mixed crew, Mira Dax convened a strategy council in the war room. Around her sat Admiral Chen, her superior from Fleet Command Talnus, Marvek, and Nova Kelm. Their uniforms and accents a patchwork of alliances. A display showed the coalitions of fringe worlds, divided by centuries of mistrust. Admiral Chen spoke first. Captain Dax, your actions have shifted the balance of power. No longer will the fringe worlds see human vessels as easy prey. He pointed to a cluster of dots, marking minor trade systems. These territories are now open for negotiation under the new Coalition Federation Charter. Lieutenant Colonel Marvik closed his eyes, then opened them with resolve. Former adversaries can become partners. I propose joint patrol flotillas to safeguard these lanes. Human Coalition mixed commands, rotating leadership. Nova chimed in, and sensor nodes powered by our shared nanotech suite. Networked through encrypted quantum channels. Real-time data will prevent misunderstandings and false alarms. Talnus tapped a holo tab. I've drafted preliminary language for the treaty. It emphasizes collective defense, resource sharing, and mutual technology transfers. We can sign within the week. Dax leaned forward, study etched in her features. This is more than a treaty. It's a new chapter, one written by ingenuity, mercy, and trust. She turned to Chen. Admiral, with your permission, I'll lead the first joint escort mission to the Helix Corridor. It'll be the ultimate proof of concept. Chen allowed himself a rare smile. Proceed, Captain. The future of human and coalition relations depends on it. As the council adjourned, Dax lingered, gazing at the map of star lanes. Ada's soft voice broke the silence. Captain, humanity's ingenuity is vast, but remember, true strength lies in how we choose to use it. She nodded, eyes bright with determination. Humanity unleashed but guided by wisdom. That will be our legacy. Outside the viewport, the stars streaked by as the Atlas Vanguard slipped into hyperspace. Ahead lay the unknown corridors where diplomacy would be waged with as much fervor as any battle where the power of invention would rewrite alliances and reshape the fate of worlds. And at the heart of it all stood the human spirit, ready to prove that ingenuity, tempered by compassion, was the greatest weapon of all. A fortnight after the Atlas Vanguard's decisive encounter, tendrils of its victory had fanned out across human and coalition space alike. In the bustling way stations of the Helix Corridor, holo broadcasts looped the engagement footage plasma. Globs striking first, boarding pods disintegrating, the dreadnought's reactor pulsing into oblivion. Frontier miners paused in their work, traders halted their haggling, and families gathered in common rooms to gape at the chirons scrolling beneath the grainy replay. On New Avalon, the largest of the frontier colonies, Governor Elise McCain convened an emergency session of the Council of Worlds. In the curved glass chamber overlooking the planet's violet seas, envoys from half a dozen systems leaned forward as McCain's calm voice filled the space. The Vanguard's actions have changed everything. Where once we faced raids and supply seizures, now we see the promise of stability. I propose we ratify the Coalition Federation Charter and establish joint patrols by month's end. Across the table, representatives nodded. Shouts of assent rose, and the motion passed unanimously. Within minutes, data streams flared as planetary governments transmitted their signatures to Agda Prime, the administrative heart of human polity. Back in Earth's orbital newsplex, renowned anchor Yvonne Reyes addressed the live feed in today's top story. The Battle of the Phantom Fleet has not only rewritten military doctrine, but also sparked a wave of diplomacy unparalleled in recent memory. Experts say this marks the beginning of a new era, one defined by shared security rather than territorial feuds. Behind her, screens cycled through maps, charts, and interviews with defense analysts. Dr. Kavita Rao, speaking via link from the United Earth Military Academy, offered measured insight. The deployment of advanced nanotech defenses and holographic arrays showcases how asymmetric warfare has evolved. No longer can brute force guarantee victory. Ingenuity and adaptability are now the keystones of strategy. Her words were met with approving murmurs in newsrooms worldwide. In the hallowed halls of Agda Prime's diplomatic concourse, Coalition envoy Lurkel strode alongside Ambassador Dax, the human delegation's liaison. Walls of softly glowing metal bore the seals of a dozen species, each seal now freshly augmented by human emblems. Your captains have demonstrated remarkable mercy, Lurkel said, voice resonant with relief. We feared retribution. Instead, we received refuge and repair. Dax inclined her head. Pieces forged by compassion, not conquest. Your people showed courage in defeat. Now it is our turn to show courage in trust. They stopped before a suspended lattice of shimmering light. The newly ratified Coalition Federation Charter, displayed in three-dimensional data runes. Lurkel's mandibles curled in what passed for a smile. May this document bind us more tightly than any Starship hull. But not all voices spoke of unity. In the smoky backrooms of the Coalition High Command, survivors of the Draxon's pride gathered in grim clusters. Their commander, General Kale Merrick, scarred both in body and honor, pounded his fist on the table. We were humiliated by a lone cruiser, he growled. Our fleets splintered by holograms and nanets. Next time, they will not find us unprepared. A grizzled captain with a mechanical eye sneered. They'll never see it coming. We'll rebuild in secret, enhance our own tri-vector plating, and train hunter-killer cadres. Then we take back our pride. Merrick's gaze hardened. Let the humans tighten their alliances. When their guard is down, we will remind them that vengeance is the only language the Coalition understands. Meanwhile, aboard the Atlas Vanguard, life had settled into a steadier rhythm. Repair crews patched the last of the plastered hull plates. Engineers recalibrated the decoy projectors. And in the cafeteria, laughter once again echoed soft. Voices trading jokes about the Phantom Fleet and bets on which system they'd chart next. Captain Dax stood at the stern viewport, watching the ribbon of stars slide past as they made the jump toward Sol. Ensign Sato approached, carrying a steaming mug of synth coffee. Lieutenant Commander Farrow says the rewritten kinetic accelerator schematics have already been ferried to Luna Base, he reported. They'll integrate it into the Orion defense grid within weeks. Dax accepted the mug, warmth seeping into her gloves. Good. Let them know it's not merely a weapon, it's a deterrent born of restraint. She took a slow sip. Ada, status on supply run to Coalition Farm Worlds. Ada's voice, cool and precise, responded. Convoys ETA 30 hours. Nanodrones loaded to repair agricultural domes on Lyra Sigma and Callerv. Medical supplies for garrison hospitals also on board. Dax folded her arms. Make sure they receive tutorials on self-maintenance. We don't want dependency, just partnership. In the quiet hum of the ready room, Commander Talnus debriefed her tactical team. Glittering holo maps displayed the last broadside of the Pride's approach vectors, alongside annotations marking every holo decoy deployment. Study these patterns, she instructed. They'll shape doctrine for decades. Innovators, not invaders, will define this century. A young lieutenant raised her hand. Commander, what if another coalition cell ignores the charter? Should we patrol actively or wait? Talnus paused. We'll do both. Active patrols show presence. Passive sensors show trust. Human ingenuity isn't just weapons and shields, it's finding balance between vigilance and faith. On Agda Prime's Senate floor, the amended Coalition Federation Charter was formally ratified in a ceremony streamed across hundreds of worlds. Delegates in flowing robes and star-forged armor rose in unison, hands extended over the texts. Luminous core, when the final clause glowed gold. A wave of subdued applause resonated through the chamber and beyond. Above the days, a banner unfurled in intricate light. United borders, shared destiny. In that moment, the long shadows at the edge of known space receded, replaced by a fragile but vibrant tapestry of alliances. Yet as celebrations flared, Captain Mira Dax prepared her crew for the next leg of their voyage, charting a newly discovered wormhole network that could have travel time between human and coalition sectors. It promised fortune and peril in equal measure. In the war room, Dax tapped the holomap. Set course for the Elias Rift, she ordered, and A to keep every decoy array primed. We don't know what else lurks in the dark, the AI replied softly. Understood, Captain. Humanity's ingenuity stands ready as the Atlas Vanguard slipped into hyperspace once more. Its white hull became a beacon of possibility and a warning to any who would test human resolve. The ripples from one starship's victory stretched farther than any photon burst, carrying with them the promise of peace and the reminder that, in the vastness of space, even small sparks can ignite revolutions.